Welcome to this edition of MDM's Quicktake. I'm Tom Gale. My guest this week, once again, is Mike Marks of Indian River Group. Mike, welcome.
Thank you, Tom. I'm enjoying these conversations. We always end up going some interesting places.
We are going into the last 2 months of 2023. We talked about this 2 weeks ago that the indicators are choppy. Third quarter GDP came in really strong. Employment strong, consumer spending strong, but at the same time, you take a look at what the third quarter reports coming in for publicly traded distributors. Things are downshifting is probably a good way to say it.
Yeah.
And most people don't have an expectation that 2024 is going to be a growth year. So given that we are in the time of year when people are putting final strategies, business plans for 2024 in place, I thought this would be a great time for you and I to talk a little bit about tactically, what are the things that leadership teams can do in the last 2 months of the year to really tee up a good 2024?
It's really about what you can get done, because everybody's still stretched thin, with supply chain issues and staffing issues, and people don't want to come to work. But I was thinking, when you asked me about this before, I was thinking about there's some defensive moves you can take, and there's some offensive moves. And to me, to use November and December to try to clean things up a bit so that you enter 24 solid and ready to go on the offense. So to me, on the defense, there's several things. And one, I think you should need to start watching cash and tactically make sure that you're doing 100% of all your available stock rotations with your suppliers. I think, we've had a period of growth and people have been buying and changing different suppliers. This is a good time to review accounts receivable and selectively tighten it up. Don't get stupid, but selectively tighten it up. And then one of the most important things would be to take your CFO and make sure that you've examined your debt line and your credit line, your debt capacity, and start renegotiating now before things get, you've got good numbers right now. It's a good time to renegotiate. The second thing is to review the replenishment paths for all your inventory. Over time, with all the craziness we've had with the pandemic, every distributor we've talked to has got a number of accumulated mistakes. So you need to don't do everything, but take your top 5 suppliers, which for most people are going to be probably 80% of their revenue, and go through and just look what's our safety stock, what's the reorder rate, and just go through so that we can get 80-90% of those reorders done automatically without somebody interfering. And then if a distributor has had issues with stocking what they sell instead of selling what they stock, they have this long tail of inventory and a bunch of working capital tied up. So one of the things to get the salespeople going, and this is only if it's severe, but if you've got a lot of salespeople selling what they want to sell instead of what you stock, reduce the commission rate on special orders and non-stock. I mean, you can goose it up in your strategic suppliers, which they love. And then also think, let's assume that things get bad. And by the second half of the year, you're going to have a lot of suppliers that are unhappy because a lot of distributors will have missed their growth commitments. They will have built all this inventory. They'll be token on finished goods inventory. And you want to think about who those key suppliers are. You want to make sure that you're biasing your business to those big suppliers rather than anything else, so that you end up on their good guy list when everybody else is talking. The other thing is that if you look at your expenses going back to 21, right? We were coming out of the pandemic, everything was crazy. And take a look at when your business was smaller and take a look at your expense levels. When your business was smaller, you were making money. Now you've probably added costs when you're growing and going through turmoil. You throw money at things to fix it. Go back and take a look at the expense levels and see where you might be able to reduce your expenses back to where you were before, because the business worked fine back then. And do you still need all of that money that's going in there? And then also, I'm a big fan. We've done this at HIT. Every company I've been on the board, we built these concentric circles. You don't want to lay people off if things get bad. So you build a set of concentric circles that collapse as business conditions get worse. Right? You automatically replace people that were terminated for cause, but you actually put a hold on it where you got to get permission, right? And sort of a new hire, you're going to hold off. Maybe you got a couple of floating holidays that go away. Maybe you reduce the match in your 401k, but you set up a series of stages. So if we get to this point, you reduce your expenses because you want to preserve your people. That's a really important part. And then once you get that done, and this is only going to apply to some, but if you've got a number of experienced, expensive salespeople that are within 18 months of retiring, this would be a really good time to help them accelerate and even talk about a separation package to get that right. I mean, what you want to do is these are all defensive. So the whole idea is that if you get that set up, your cost structure is right, your balance sheet's a little bit stronger, you're sensitive, you'll have fewer surprises. So if you do some of that stuff, and not all of it, but every company's different, then you can think about going on the offense. And I would sit and take a look at what is the critical constraint that every business has. And this is by location. So if you got 15 locations, they're probably going to have different critical constraints, but it's what's the one thing I could change that would have the biggest improvement on revenue or growth or profit. And it's typically the thing people apologize the most for. I'm always late getting quotes out or I mean, everybody's got a story. Find that, and this is the important trade-off. This comes from Eli Goldratt's culture on the goal and how do you actually deal with this, but make a non-recurring investment to address that critical constraint. And then you're going to lower your costs going forward, but it was a non-recurring investment. So once you do it, you're reaping the benefits going forward. And then this is an old consulting technique. If you've got a bunch of field salespeople, take where the territories are next to each other, where they're adjacent, and take accounts away from each salesperson and give them to an adjacent salesperson where they're at the boundary. It reduces driving time. But every salesman thinks they're the best salesman in the worst territory. And so as soon as you give them an account from somebody else, they're going to show you how smart they are and how underappreciated they are. And it's an old trick, frankly, from the 60s and 70s. And this is kind of like leisure suits. Everything that's old is new again. And then I would also do a contest and start tracking LPP, last price paid. If you just look at all the orders that you write, what percentage of the line items did we sell to this customer at the same price we sold last time, and have the contest for inside sales and outside sales in terms of who can have the smallest percentage of line items in a month that are LPP, even if they raise it a penny. But I mean, we accumulate all these things. It's like a parking lot where you're the cheapest guy in town and no customer is ever going to tell you that, and you're not going to lose the business. People are just afraid to change it. And then I also think that I would target one elephant for each sales guy. The big accounts that they belong to your competitors, and you want one a quarter per guy, just one. But the thing is, and they don't even have to be successful, but you must not just say, I'm going to try hard, and they say, I couldn't get anything. You need to talk about setting up joint calls with their key suppliers, have your sales manager go in. You need to actually put a plan together, measure the calls, and actually show up and see what happens. Now, that stuff, I mean, all these are just bite-sized tacticals, but the point is, you have to create, if you're the executive, you have to create some internal comfort so you don't go ballistic and end up in a bell tower with a rifle shooting your problem employees. So to me, you've got to find some way to get some internal comfort, just to get some balance other than this, because it's tough. And then also, I would encourage you to react very quickly to changes that you see in tough markets. Speed is a weapon. And it allows you to get a little more runway to get things going. So the last but not least, and very few people do this, if we're going to have a quiet year, especially a decline, is Rahm Emanuel's line, never let a good crisis go to waste. This would be a perfect time for you to change an ERP system or to go digital on e-com or do something, because if you wait for everything to get busy again, you're going to be a one-legged man in a butt kicking contest. So anyway, that was just a short verbal diarrhea dump. Did any of that make sense, Tom?
Yes. And my follow-up to that, Mike, is you're like a wind-up toy for distribution strategy and tactics, which I love. So it was fantastic. My follow-up to that is, okay, we set the scenario for a quiet to, let's say a slight downturn.
Right.
What if we're surprised and actually it's a flattish, and then we start to see some increase? Would you change anything in the tactics, the prescription that you outlined for 2024?
The last thing I mentioned, which was speed was a weapon. If you start to notice an increase, one of the very first things that's going to happen, and I love this word, we have flattish growth. It's stupid, but but the manufacturers all work with MRP systems, material, and so they're going to be building inventory based on where this is. And if all of a sudden the market picks up, lead times are going to scoot way out really fast because there won't be any inventory. So if you start to see an uptick on this, the smart play is to go to the supplier, give them a non-cancelable order with monthly releases for 6 months or something like that. And then you're getting ahead of their FIFO, their first in, first out backlog, because you want to be able to get product when other people can't. That would be the only thing I would change.
Yeah. My key takeaway from everything that you said, Mike, is don't stay on autopilot and just keep doing what you've been doing in 2023. Get a little bit proactive in small bites, and it's going to make a big difference.
Yeah. And by the way, that is the biggest danger that a real distributor has is the complacency, and we're on autopilot and every day's Groundhog Day. So the whole point is that you just need to do the work. You don't have to like it. You just need to do the work. So we'll see where it ends up going. So
this was a short conversation, but to the point, and some great tips to make the best of the rest of the year. Thanks, Mike. Look forward to the next conversation.
I can't wait to see some of the new stuff that you guys have going. I know you can't talk about it yet, but it's way cool, man. Way cool.
Yep. Looking forward to 2024. Thank you.
Take care. Bye-bye.